Hey everybody, Pdough here. Uh, Welcome to my inaugural, if you want to call it that, broadcast, so to say. Um, oh, geez, went blank there. Hang on a second. I'm 60 years old, so yeah, Alzheimer's setting in. So give me a second here. Um, yes, I'm Peeves, and welcome to Pet Peeves and Good 411. Uh, so I figured this time around, I already made one video, and it's kind of a smattering of a bunch of different stuff, but mainly about me being upset about the attack on the Capitol and how things were going with the MAGA people. And I basically believe, and I stress that in my video, that if something like this happens again, people need to take up arms. It's been almost 200 years since the Civil War, so maybe it's time for another change. I mean, because these MAGA people, you're never going to change their mind. They're psychotic. Uh, they've been brought up on religion. The Republicans use religion to control them. And, like I say, they're never going to change their thought processes. They're not open to seeing another side. So if something like that happens again, it's blue states versus a red. I don't care. There's a hell of a lot more red states, but all the blue states are on the coast. So, and we have a hell of a lot more people than the red states. So, if you want to give it a shot, hey, let's check it out. But anyway, back to where I'm going with this. I figured this time around, I'd let you guys get to know me a little bit and figure out whether or not you even want to listen to my BS. Personally, it's not BS, but some of you might think it is. A lot of it's opinion, a lot of it's fact, and, well, let me tell you about myself. I'm 60 years old. I grew up in a couple little towns, Fair Oaks and Orangevale, Sacramento, California, and pretty much lived here all my life. When I was growing up, wow, what a way to start this out. I was molested by my stepbrother, and that just really screwed me up. It has my whole life. And so, as I was growing up, I guess it's this way with a lot of molestation victims, that you don't want anybody to know. But you always feel like if people look you in the eye, they can see right through you, and they can tell your secrets. And so even to this day, well, not so much now, but especially when I was younger and through most of my younger life up until maybe my 30s or so, I was a nice person. I could be a nice person, but it was hard for me to ask girls out for dates. It was hard for me to be in a setting of a large group of people that I didn't know. And so that was a major problem. And then also, I started drinking when I was 11 years old. And so what I found with drinking was I could be whoever the hell I wanted to be. And it didn't matter to me. I mean, I still wouldn't tell people my secrets or nothing like that, but, I'd be the happy-go-lucky guy and stuff like that. One of the bad things from that situation was I was a very angry person. And, I mean, I'd fight at the drop of the hand. And I didn't just fight people, I raged on them. And what I mean by that is, I don't care who you were, how big you were, whatever the situation was. If you disrespected me, especially being a kid, 12, 13 on up, if you tried to embarrass me in front of other people, anything like that, I would immediately be in your face. And when I did that, my eyes are hazel. And everyone would tell me, your eyes turned black. And a lot of times I wouldn't even get in somebody's face. I would immediately go to violence. And so that was kind of a reputation that I had throughout school is, hey, Pat's a really nice guy, but don't fuck with him. And that all results from, I realize that now, that all resulted from the molestation. It's because if somebody challenged me, it was like I was showing, if I didn't do something, I was showing weakness. And if I showed weakness, then I could be hurt. And not necessarily physically, psychologically, mentally, whatever. But, so yeah, and that's one thing that has lasted my whole life, unfortunately. I mean, even to this day. If somebody fucks with me, I'm slower to get to that point, but if you continue and get me to that point, then it's a done deal. I mean, I can't stop myself at that point. And, I'm a pretty tough guy. I'm 6'1", I'm 240 pounds. That's how big I was when I played football in high school. And so, and I was in good shape, really strong, everything like that. I also taken karate and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I know how to fight and I know how to protect myself. But because of my mentality, I never tried to defend myself. I was always the aggressor. And it caused me a lot of problems throughout my life. And one of the crazy things that I think about now is, and I believe this wholeheartedly, that I would not live to see 40 years of age. I just knew that I would get involved in something and I would kill somebody or somebody would kill me. And so again, like I say, that was a major problem. And the drinking, geez. I mean, it was the only time I could function in public, but I lost so many jobs over it. I had to live in my car a lot of the time. Lived down at Negro Bar by Folsom Lake here in California. Another thing about my childhood is I grew up, like I say, with 4 brothers, 1 sister, and 1 fucking worthless stepbrother. But the house was always chaotic. And, we didn't have a lot of money. By that time, around 9, my mom married my stepfather, and they actually bought a house. I couldn't believe this. $16,500 for a brand new 4-bedroom, 2-bath home. And I think that was 1969. So I guess, it was on the lower side, definitely. But, the house was just always chaotic, and I hated my stepdad. I never really got along great with my siblings. We were kind of close, and when it came to protection, oh my God, everyone in my family, my older brother, my second oldest brother, me, if you messed with any of us, you got all of us. And we soon developed a reputation for that. So, most people in the know didn't fuck with any of us. But with that said, let's kind of move on. I'm losing my train of thought here. Hang on. Okay. So where was I? Hated school. Very intelligent. I was certified gifted in kindergarten. I went to advanced classes, first, second, third, fourth grade. Excuse me. But then around 5th grade, I just started not liking school at all. And in 6th grade, oh my God, I had this teacher that must have been 90 years old. In reality, she was probably close to 60. But me and her, I just literally hated her from the first day of school because I was a type of a class clown, and I was pretty funny. For crying out loud, when I was in 4th grade, I used to make these little books, like just cardboard paper, or not cardboard, construction paper, and then binder paper, and they were like maybe 5 inches high, 3 inches across. And I would write these little stories. And I'd sell these books for like 25 cents a piece at school, and people bought them, and they enjoyed them. So, and that gave me confidence, and I liked being a class clown. I liked getting positive attention, you know what I mean? And she didn't want no part of that. So from day one, I didn't like her. And we had our drag out, yelling matches and shit like that. I spent so much time in the principal's office in 6th grade, I just can't imagine it. And then finally on the last day of school, I went nuts on her, and I just told her everything I thought about her. You worthless old CU, you know what. Just every insult I could possibly imagine. And so, finally after about, I don't know, that probably lasted maybe 20 minutes. Could have been a little bit longer than that. But anyway, so, she started to say something to me, and I said, don't even fucking tell me. I'm going to the office right now. And I walked down to the office, and I was sitting there for a minute, and the principal comes out. Doherty, you're here again, you little so-and-so? Come in my office. And I stood up, and then I thought to myself for a minute, and I said, hey, I'm in 6th grade. This is the last day of school. I'm never coming back here again. So I looked at the principal and I said, suck my dick, you fat motherfucker. And I turned around and I just walked out and I walked home. And I told my mom what happened. And she said, well, Thank God that's over with. She goes, you don't have to worry about that anymore. Because, she had a problem with the teacher too. And my mom, again, like I say, I love my mom more than anything in the world. She was always there for me. Uh, she was understanding. There were just things that she didn't know. And so she couldn't have helped in those situations. I never told her. I didn't tell her until I think I was in my 30s about the molestation. But anyway, so back to where I was at. So in my 20s, okay, a lot of drinking, a lot of homelessness, um, lot of fighting. Bar fights. I love to get into bar fights. It was one of the main reasons. It was There was two reasons for me to go to a bar, and it wasn't to drink and socialize. It was to get pussy, pardon my French, but it's the truth, or to get into a fight. And I would have taken either. It didn't matter to me. I don't know how to pause this, so hang on a second. I gotta light up a cigarette. Don't know how to edit yet or anything like that, so I apologize. Um, Please bear with me. Anyway, again, like what I'm trying to tell you is I want you to get an idea of who I am so you can judge yourself whether you feel like you want to listen to my insights and my knowledge. Again, like I say, I'm 60 years old. I am college educated. I'm also an ex-convict. So, there's good and bad. I'm an ex-drug addict, and I'm also an or can you be an ex-alcoholic? I don't know. But anyway, again, like I say, a lot of fights, a lot of stuff like that in my 20s. And then I used to do little cocaine here and there when I could afford it. Back in the day, it was like $100 a gram. Well, then all of a sudden, methamphetamine shows up. And this is years before it went across the country and became the scourge that it is today. And meth was $20 a gram. So, hey, that's the poor man's cocaine. And the difference was cocaine got you high for about 3 hours. Methamphetamine got you high for about 3 days. So I got involved with that. I didn't become addicted for like maybe 5 or 6 years. And somebody turned me on to, God, to shooting it up. And the first time I did that, that was the end. And I mean, it was just, I can't describe the high. To a lot of people, they like tweaking, not me. The only reason I took meth was sexually. And the thing with that is methamphetamine does something to your mind to where if you're doing anything sexually, it heightens it 1,000 times. I mean, people can have some pretty awesome orgasms, okay? Different techniques to get it better and stuff like that. But nothing will ever compare to methamphetamine. And cocaine's kind of like that, but not nearly like methamphetamine. So that was my real problem with it, is because it was so addicting and it was so enjoyable. sex was just beyond compare. And the good thing about that was everybody that did meth, sooner or later, they get there. A lot of people would do meth and they'd like to tweak all day long, maybe for 2 days. And then at the end of the high, that's when they'd want to have their sex. Me, as soon as I did it, boom, let's go. But again, like I say, that was the overpowering problem with the addiction, and then trying to quit it. It's almost undoable, and any meth addict will tell you that. The only way that I was able to quit was because I had got really deep in selling it. And when you're selling drugs, especially meth, we used to do a little thing called taxing people. And that was, if people didn't pay you, you would get 3 or 4 guys and you'd go kick in their door. I don't care if their mother and father, their whole family was there. You'd sit them all down and you'd walk through the house and just take their shit. And when you thought you had enough for what the person owed you, you'd say, okay, motherfucker, I don't ever want to see you again. Or if you want to see me, bring cash. So things started getting violent. And deep down, I'm not that person. I don't like committing crimes. I'm not a criminal at heart. The only time I've ever broken the law is when I was drunk or high. So again, like I say, deep in my heart, I was having a conflict with this stuff. And I had a gun pulled on me, put right to my head, being robbed. I've been stabbed a couple of times, and I've stabbed some people a few times. Oh, wow. It brings back such bad memories. But anyway, so what happened was, I knew that while I was doing some taxing, I was introduced to a couple of guys, and these guys were straight up fucking worst criminal type you could imagine. I mean, they'd kill a person, it just didn't matter. And so, if I gave them some meth, they would go tax with me. Well, they started getting way too violent, and so I backed away from them. Oh, excuse me, mouth getting dry. So anyway, we had some disputes and shit like that, and there again, like I say, I'm a big guy, I'm a tough guy. And these guys were actually smaller guys. One guy was like 5'10", maybe $180. And the other guy was maybe 5'7", $150. But they were straight up criminals. I mean, that's all they know, and that's all they want to do. So I knew they were extremely dangerous. And then I'd gotten word through the grapevine that they were coming over to fucking rob me and kill me. So I had to immediately get out of my house, and I went over and I stayed with my parents. I was in Rancho Cordova at this time, which is another little small town in Sacramento County. And they lived out by Folsom Lake, which was, just outside Sacramento County. So I went and I stayed with them for a little while, and I hadn't done drugs for a week or two. And I realized that, hey, I can do this because I'm not around anybody. I'm not talking to anybody. No one around me does that. So I had no influence. Even though I had cravings, I just told myself I'm not going to go get right back into this, what I just got out of. And so eventually time went on and that was it. I didn't have cravings for it anymore. I didn't want it in my life. And that's the only reason I was able to do it. Most people can't do that because they can't get away from their environment. If you're poor, you live in the slums or whatever, you're not going to say, okay, I'm going to quit and I'm going to go to rehab, because rehab is no good. I find no quality in it because you're in there with other drug addicts and you're going to hear stories that you're going to find funny, relatable, exciting, that you might have gone through. And then the first thing you think of, even though you've been clean for 30, 60, 90 days, the first time you come out and see somebody from your old thing, you're going to say, hey, you got a line, or, whatever. Or they're going to offer it to you. Because that's misery loves company. So they're going to want to, bring you back in the fold, so to speak. So, anyway, that's how I was able to quit meth. But also because I got married when I was 30. Found the love of my life. God, I miss her so much. But unfortunately, she was doing meth too. But she almost, after we were together for about 6 months, she got pregnant. And I told her, this was, 6, 7, 8 years before I quit. I told her, you cannot do meth while you're pregnant. And she promised me she wouldn't. And we were around all the time. And I can tell at the drop of the hat if somebody's high on meth. It's that easy, especially when you've been through it as long as I had. And I never saw the signs with her. So I was really happy about that. And my daughter, 8 pounds, 12 ounces, little chubby, little beautiful baby. And I'm so blessed that I have, well, I'm not going to say blessed because I don't believe in God. So I'm just so happy that I have her with me. But after she was born, Pam went right back to doing meth. And she was 5 foot tall and weighed 90 pounds. We made a really odd couple because I was 6'1" and I weighed 240 pounds. So people used to ask me sometimes, hey, is that your daughter? I thought, no, that's my wife. But anyway, beautiful woman. Nicest person you would ever meet. Her only problem was meth. And I guess the reason I didn't have a problem with it was because, oh my God, the sex we had. It was astonishing. It was unbelievable. But then after about 3 years, things started falling apart. And I used to get angry a lot. I never physically harmed her. That's not my thing. But I would punch the walls. And I would yell and scream and shit like that. And evidently she just had enough of it, so she ended up leaving me, and she tried to take my daughter. And I said, that ain't happening, girl. And so she showed up with the cops, and there was two cops, and I said, why are you here? They said, well, we're here to pick up, give your daughter to her mother. And I said, oh, no, you're not. And they said, well, we have a court order. And I said, dude, I'm telling you right now, you better call for backup because it ain't happening. And one of them tried to grab my hand, and I just punched him right in the fucking mouth. And then both of them backed up, and they got on their radios real quick. We need backup. We need backup. Hurry, hurry, hurry. 3 other cop cars pull up, so there's 5 cops, and it took them a half an hour to get me under control before they were able to take my daughter. And I went to jail, of course, did some time, not a hell of a lot. It might have been 30, 45 days, something like that. But then after that, I hadn't seen my daughter for about a month, and I told Pam I needed to see her. And she was living someplace, and she kept telling me no. So I told my brother, I said, look, let's go over and get my daughter. I'm tired of fucking around with this. I don't care if the cops show up. I don't care what the deal is. I know my daughter's not safe with her right now. And of course she wasn't. We show up at the apartment she's staying at, and there's smoke coming out under the door. Thick smoke. I kicked the door in. There's like 7 people sleeping on the couches, the floors in the living room. In the kitchen, there's smoke billowing out of this pot that had evidently been put on the stove, and then somebody passed out. So the first thing I did was I threw that in the sink and ran water on it. Then I went down the hall, saw Pam in the bedroom, saw my daughter in there. I just picked up my daughter and left. And I didn't care if the fucking place burnt down with all of them in it. Didn't matter to me. But I got my daughter, and I have had her ever since then. Thank whoever. But, so that was a real scary experience for me. But, and then I could see that Pam was just really getting unhealthy. And then for the next year, for about the next year, I would get calls from either the hospital or the jail asking me to come and pick her up. And immediately I would go pick her up. I would bring her home. I could see she wasn't doing good. I said, Pam, please stay with me. We don't have to be a couple. We don't need to have sex. We don't need to even talk to each other if you don't want. But please stay with me so you can improve your health. Because maybe 2 months before she died was the last time that I saw her. And she had me pick her up from the hospital, and then it's like she could barely breathe. She was coughing all the time. And she finally told me, she said, I'm dying. She said, my heart is not working right anymore. It's 3 times the size of what it should be. Or actually, let me go to the visit prior to that. She was that sick. She came over, and poor Sarah, she was scared. She came out, Pam went in to lay down with her for the night, and Sarah came out to me in the living room, and she just came running out and she gave me a great big hug and she said, "Daddy, I'm scared of Mommy." And I said, "Why?" And she says, "Because she sounds so bad." And that just kind of broke my heart. And then again, so for the next visit, that's when she told me that she was dying and everything. And I asked her, "Please stay with me, please stay with me." And she finally agreed. And she said, "Okay, well, just take me over to this person's house so I can get my clothes and stuff." And I says, "Okay, that's not a problem." Drive over to this house, park out in front. She runs in, sitting there for about 10 minutes. I got Sarah in the car. We're just sitting there listening to music. 15, 20 minutes go by. I go, "Okay, this is taking too long." And I figured something was up. I go knock on the door, and they go, I said, "I need to talk to Pam." And they go, "Well, she's not here." I said, "Don't give me that shit. I just brought her over here, and I saw her walk in." And they go, "She just jumped the fence about 5 minutes ago." And I said, "No way. There's no way she could jump the fence in the condition she's in." She said, "Well, her boyfriend helped her." And at the time she was 30 years old and she was dating this fucking 65-year-old guy that was a meth addict too. I guess because he always supplied her with drugs. I mean, he always had them, so. But anyway, I don't hear from Pam or anything for about a month, month and a half, and then her boyfriend calls me. Says, "Hey, dude, Pam died. She's over in the apartment right now. You need to call somebody." Because when Pam died, they all fucking got their drugs and took off because they didn't want to get arrested or whatever. See, that's how good your friends are when you have drug friends. So anyway, I called the cops and the ambulance and stuff, and they went there, picked up her body, took her to the hospital. Then they did well, I don't think they'd done the autopsy yet. As a matter of fact, I don't even think they did an autopsy. Yeah, because her medical records were pretty clear that, she was dying and everything like that. So they, I guess, immediately marked it down as a natural death, if you want to call it that. But I'll never forget this, and I wish to God I never would have went down there, but someone had to go identify her. Her family lived a couple states out of state, and I didn't even know them. She was never close with them, so that kind of stuff, it wasn't feasible. I didn't even have a number for them. So I had to go down and identify her, and I still see her to this day, and I swear to God, she did not look like the person I had seen 2 months ago. She was like a skeleton with skin. Didn't look human at all. It really just didn't look human at all. And, when people die of natural causes, they shut their eyes. And they still look the same, all that kind of stuff, They're just not there anymore. Well, she looked like somebody had left her out in somewhere for like weeks and weeks. But anyway, so that was a terrible thing. Right after that, I went hunting some people down that I felt was responsible for it, and I hurt them real bad. And so I ended up going to prison. I only did 16 months. It was the shortest sentence. I spent time in 3 different prisons. Why, I don't know. Uh, First prison I went to was the worst. That's Tracy. It's a gladiator school. Everybody goes there for classification. So it doesn't matter if you're uh, a numerous drunk driver with no violence or if you're a rapist, murderer, whatever. You're all in the same place together. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of payback goes on. You know, people screwing people in prison or on the street, and they come to prison, well, now it's time to pay. So there was a stabbing, oh, every day at least, on the yard or in the chow hall. It was insane. So, like, after I was there for like about 2 weeks, I got transferred from the initial side over to the regular side, but we were in full lockdown. So 23 hours, 24 hours a day, all your meals in your cell, all cold meals. You're lucky if you got a shower a week. Because I know they say that 23 hours a day, and then each day you're let out for a shower and maybe an hour of rec or something like that. No, 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 no. It does not work like that, especially when there's crap going on like what was going on when I was there. You're locked down 24 hours a day. And again, like I said, you'd be lucky if you got out of the shower once a week, got out to shower once a week. So, you know, I don't know. I ended up on this, it was a level 2 yard, which it's not a level 1, which is the lowest, but it's also not a level 3 or 4, which are the most dangerous. But you still have the gangs and everything like that. And as soon as I got in there, this dude about 5'10", probably 190, maybe 200 pounds. He was built like a little brick shit house. And he was tatted up like you wouldn't believe. And he was AB all the way. I mean, you couldn't deny that. And first thing he says, dude, come here, or Wood, come here. And so I just put my shit on my rack, and these were open barracks, 60 people to a barracks with all the floors spread out on the bed. And, geez, I don't know if I should be going this deep into it. I'm trying to tell you about myself, but these could be separate stories, I guess. But let me just finish this off real quick. So, you know, he asked about my background and stuff like that. My brother is a Hell's Angel. My oldest brother is a Hell's Angel. So, you know, I told him about that. And, you know, I know what time it is. Even though, you know, I mean, I'd been to jail a few times in my early 20s. Just jail and just, you know, bullshit type stuff. DUIs, maybe a fight or something like that, but not with a lot of damage and stuff. So that was my first time in prison. And it was, so he tells me, he goes, I'm getting out in fucking 3 days. He goes, you're going to have to take over shot caller for the whites. And I said, are you fucking kidding me? And he goes, dude, you're the only one qualified. He says, we got, yeah, and there's a bunch of white people in there, but a lot of them were younger. And there were some tough kids in there too, but they were younger. And they didn't know how to follow rules and shit like that. And so they needed somebody, you know, a little older that could school them on it. And so I told him, all right, man, I'll do it. And so for the rest of the time I was there, like again, like I say, it was only a level 2 yard, but I was a shot caller. And there was a couple times shit broke loose and we had to deal with it. And one time we had this young white punk kid come in. He was acting like he was fucking just the shit, meaner than anybody that ever fucking moved. And he had disrespected a fucking black guy. And the black shot caller come over to me and he says, check it out, bro. He says, you need to handle this punk. And if you don't, we're going to handle it. So I pulled the kid aside and I started trying to talk to him. And he starts disrespecting me. You know, telling me, who the fuck do you think you are trying to tell me what's going on? I said, are you serious? He said, yeah. And I said, all right, bud. And I turned around and the blacks were paying attention to what's going on. And I looked at the black shot caller and I just smiled at him. And he knew what time it was. And that, let's just say that little punk kid, he got fucked up really bad. Really bad. And I hope he learned his lesson from it because it could have been a lot easier. But anyway, quickly, I went to prison another time for fighting and violence and stuff like that. So I did another 2-year stretch, 2.5-year stretch. Well, it was actually 5 years, but I got paroled. And never been in trouble since then. And I'll go into that stuff more on some different time. This has really taken a long time, so all I'm trying to do is introduce myself. But let me kind of try and figure this off. Again, throughout my life, I never believed I would live until I was 40. So I was fastly approaching 40, and I'm thinking, well, shit, what am I going to do now? Because I figured I'd be dead by now and I wouldn't have any concerns about the rest of my life. And so I just started thinking about it and I said, shit, I got to get my act together. So I went back to college, got a couple of degrees and my bachelor's degree, and I went and tried to work in an office, which was basically where I would have to work with my degrees. And it just did not work out. That's not the person I am. And I can't have a boss, some punk motherfucker or some woman that is gonna get in my face or, you know, disrespect me in any way. And so that immediately did not work out. So I thought, well, I've spent 4.5 years in college for nothing. And I mean, I'm so happy I did it because of the increased knowledge that I got and understanding of just about everything, basically. I've always been an intelligent person. Like I said, I was gifted when I was a kid. I just never used my mind for scholastic type stuff until I went back to college. And I graduated with a GPA of 3.87, so that's not too damn bad, I would say. But anyway, so after I went to college, I said, you know what? I know what I got to do. I'm going to be a truck driver, for crying out loud. I mean, it's easy to get into. Just go to a truck driving school. I mean, I had driven truck before. I just didn't, there was no way I could get a license because I didn't know anybody with a truck at that time. So I kind of had to go through the school. But actually the state paid for it, so it wasn't that big a deal. So I got my truck driver's license and I started driving over the road. And oh my God, I loved it. This country is so beautiful. I mean, everywhere. And so many different types of beauty. It's just amazing. But I spent a number of years driving over the road, just seeing every part of the country. And, but my daughter had been living with my sister while I was in prison. And when I got out, I almost immediately went to the truck driving. So we decided that it would be better not to take her out of school or anything like that, try to homeschool her or nothing like that, just let things as they were. And I went ahead and went out driving. But then there were starting to be some problems with my sister's worthless piece of shit husband. Let's just say that. And I did end up beating his ass, believe me. He used to not let my daughter eat, would call her fat. And once I heard that, I went over and I beat the shit out of him. And, they called the cops and I got arrested, but I was out the next day. But anyway, again, all this violence, it goes back to the molestation. So, and there again, like I say, even to this day, I'm not as quick to get there. But if I get there, God help you, because I will hurt a person. And depending upon how bad it gets, I could hurt a person really bad. Right now, I'm 60 years old. I got really bad back problems. I've been disabled for a while. So even with that said, if I go into a rage, I don't feel pain. And so even at this advanced age, I mean, I'm 60 years old, but, I'll still whip some ass, and I'll whip some young ass too. There's no doubt about that in my mind. But I'm not proud of it. Let's put it that way. I'm really not proud of that. That's one of my major issues. I know I laugh about it because I think it's funny now. But no, I'm not. To say I'm proud of it, actually, I don't know. Maybe in a sense I am, because I never took shit from nobody, and I never hurt somebody that didn't have it coming. And maybe that's what I'm proud of, because the only people that I ever hurt were people that did something to me personally, or to my family. Other than that, I've never hurt anybody. But okay, let's get past that. So anyway, I came back home and I got a job driving locally. So I was home every night, and my daughter could live with me, go to school, everything like that. The only problem was driving locally, I was driving a rock truck, or we'd haul rock, asphalt, whatever, pouring new roads, hauling dirt sometimes, not that often because dirt's not that big of a commodity. But I would have to get out and do a lot more physical stuff. And I injured my back. I broke it a couple of times. I was off of work for about a year and a half. Tried to go back to work. One of the guys that was dumping out my truck, the asphalt, when you're dumping out asphalt, you have a guy that walks along the trailer of your truck, and you have the actual paver, And what you do is you drop a line of asphalt and that paver sucks it up. So you can't dump the whole load at once. You have to dump it a little bit as you're moving forward. And he left about maybe 5,000 pounds left in my back trailer. And 5,000 pounds ain't shit on a big rig. It felt empty. So I drove an hour back to the yard, parked my truck, getting ready to leave, and the owner comes out, looks in the trailer and says, "Hey, wait a minute. What the hell's this?" And I went and I looked and I said, "Oh my God." I says, "That dude told me he dumped it." And he goes, "Well, you're going to have to clean it out." And I said, "Bullshit. I told you when I started I have a bad back and I can't do that." And he goes, "Well, clean it out or pick up your paycheck." And so I got back there and I started it was hard by then. And, asphalt, when it's hot, it's really malleable. But once it gets hard, obviously it's not, because it's a road, right? So I was trying to get it out, and I broke a couple vertebrae. I did some serious muscle damage. And I was barely able to get out of the back of the truck. And I kind of started staggering over to my car, and the owner said, "Did you get it all out?" And I said, "Fuck you." And I said, I'll be suing you, so expect to hear from my attorneys." And I got in my car and I left. And I did end up suing them, and they did pay for what they did, because when I applied for the job and when I was hired on, I specifically explained to them that I had back issues and I could not do physical work. I can drive the truck, I can get out and I can do this, that, the other thing, but I can't do physical work. And they were completely and well aware of it. As a matter of fact, it was written on my contract. So things worked out with that, but I've been screwed up for the rest of my life. This happened when I was about 50, I think, maybe. So, yeah, for the last 20 years, 30 years, actually, if I think about it, because that's the first time I broke my back. But yeah, for the last 30 years, my back's just been a major issue. The last 10, the worst. But anyway, so spent the last 10 years, I'm single. I never even thought about dating again after my wife died. I don't know if it scared me, if I didn't want to fall in love with somebody again and get hurt like that. So, I don't know. I haven't dated in the last 25, 30 years. Well, here we go. Back in the day when it just started out, the internet and stuff like that, I tried online dating a couple of times. Oh my God, was that a disaster? People lied so much about who they were back then. It was ridiculous. This one time, I saw this pretty girl, not skinny, but not fat, and beautiful eyes. God, I just fell for her eyes. So, I met her online, and, we started talking and stuff, and we decided to have a date. I asked her, if she wanted to come over, and I'd make dinner for her, and we could watch a movie or something like that. And, oh my God. About the time I'm expecting her, my daughter's playing out in the yard, and this woman pulls up, and she comes around in and she goes, "Daddy, somebody's here." And I says, "Oh, that must be her." And she wasn't parked directly in front of my house, more kind of towards the neighbor's house. And I watched her struggle for about 3 minutes to get out of the car. And I don't have anything about fat people. Until recently, I was up to 365 pounds. And then over the last 16 months, I lost 100 and, how much? 130. I got down to 210, and now I'm back up to about 230, 235, staying about there, which is still too heavy for me. I don't like it, but, you know, what are you going to do? Anyway, so, the woman, she finally wrestles herself out of the car, and I swear to God, she had to weigh 500 pounds. And so I just kind of glanced at her, and then I just shut my door and went back in the house. I figured she was going to the neighbor's house or something like that. And just a couple minutes later, there's a knock on my door, and I open it, and she says, "Hi, I'm Sandy." And I said, "Excuse me?" She goes, "It's me, Patrick." And I said, "No, it's not." And she goes, "Yeah, it's me." And I said, "You're not the person I've been speaking to or looking at." And she goes, "Oh, well, I put old photographs of me on there." And I said, "You don't even look like the woman." And she goes, "Yeah, that's me. It's just about 10 years ago." And I tried to be as nice as I could. And I just said, "Well, look, as far as I can tell, you haven't been honest with me, and that's enough for me not to want to see you. So good luck in the future. I wish you the best, but I'm not interested." And that wasn't the first time. I mean, that wasn't the only time. There was like 2 or 3 times. And after the third time, that was it. I was done. So that's about it. I mean, I haven't dated. I am lonely. It's hard to live without having someone to confide in. Just having physical touch, holding hands, a hug, a kiss. God, I was a great kisser, and I haven't kissed a woman in 25 years. So I don't even know if I can still do it right or not, but I guess we're not going to end up seeing. But anyway, that's where I'm at now. And so I have a lot of life experience with a lot of different things on a lot of different levels. And so what I plan on doing is I'm just going to be posting videos about my pet peeves, things that bother me. I've already done one. I haven't posted it yet. It has to do with race relations and the attack on the Capitol and just stuff like that. It's kind of rambling because I kept getting off subject. And at this point, I don't have enough experience to know how to edit or nothing like that. I'm just doing this on my phone. But I've seen a lot of people online with their podcasts and their this and their that. And mostly it's criminal stuff and podcasts I hate because Mr. Ballin, I love him, except for now, because all he does is podcasts. And I don't want to sit there and listen to somebody's voice. I want to see you talking to me. And especially him, he's a good storyteller. I really like that. I mean, he gestures a lot. He gets you feeling what he's talking about. And then when you listen to him on a podcast, it's like having sex with a rubber on. It's just kind of ridiculous. But then again, anyway, so I don't notice a lot of just, people giving good advice out there. And I'm 60 years old. I'm intelligent. I've lived through a lot of things, and I think I have a lot to offer people if they just want to listen. And to everybody, to teenagers, to children. I mean, I don't expect to speak directly to children, but to their parents and maybe explain things that they haven't figured out or don't realize yet. So, anyway, yeah, like me, don't like me, that's okay. Like I said, I'm new at this. I don't know how it works, but I would really appreciate any and all comments just to see where I'm at and if I want to keep doing this stuff. Actually, I really do. I'm bored out of my mind. There's nothing to do, nowhere to go, no people to see. So I got to find something to do. And this might be something because, that's one thing I've always known is I am an intelligent person and I have a lot to offer. And, if people would listen, I can give them some insights that they might not have thought of or, whatever the case may be. And like I said, I'm going to call this Pet Peeves and Good 411. So I'll also be talking about my pet peeves and other people's pet peeves, things that just piss you off. And it doesn't matter who you are. You could be the most religious person in the world, and if some certain thing happens to you, it can get your dander up. So, yeah, that's where I want to go with this. So, I'd appreciate any feedback I could get, and peace out, everybody.